All right, math leaguers, a little midweek action. Just thought I'd give you a couple hints. You know, this is a brand new league, and some of you guys are getting used to how some of the problems work. There can be a lot of times a very algebra-based solution to these problems, but a lot of times there's other ways to go about it if you haven't experienced much algebra. So I'm going to give some tips on the first 4 problems. I'll probably put out another video soon, maybe do like 3 or 4 at a time. I don't want to overwhelm you with doing all 20 problems. And again, I'm not going to do the problems for you. I'm just going to do something similar. It's a smaller problem that you can then take the skills and the ideas and maybe apply them to the problems. So keep on the lookout, keep on the lookout for videos. I'm also going to be sending you some little tasks where you can get extra bonus points and things like that as the week goes along. So anyway, the first question had to do with Bob and Joe and Fred painting a house. So I took different numbers, not the ones that I gave you, but I made up another problem. Let's say it takes Bob 2 hours to paint a house, Joe 2 hours to paint a house, and Fred 3 hours to paint a house. One thing you can do is if you look, you can find if there's something that all these numbers go into, like a common multiple of these, then you can actually build a house. So I made a little house here, rectangular house. So if it takes Bob 2 hours to paint the house, then he can paint half the house in an hour, right? So I said, well, I make them with 6 boxes. So if Bob can do half a house, Bob can paint 3 boxes in 1 hour. Okay, Joe could do the exact same thing. Joe could paint 3 boxes in 1 hour. And then look, Fred takes him 3 hours. So 1, 2, 3 hours. So Fred can only paint like 2 boxes in an hour. So in 1 hour, these 3 guys together could paint 8 boxes. Okay, so they could paint 8 boxes, all right, when they only need to paint 6. All right, so they could paint 4, they could do 4 at a time that they need in 1 hour when they only need to do 3, right? So all you gotta do is invert this. I know there's a trick to it, and I'll show you the algebra trick another time, but you literally can just take this and invert it and say it would take them 3/4 of an hour to paint this house if they were working together. Now, there's also, I showed you this one cool video. There's a special formula. And by the way, there's a third way of doing this, but there's a special formula. You take A times B over A plus B. What are A and B? It just means like Bob is A, Joe is B, but we just take them 2 people at a time. So 2 and 2, 2 times 2, this is just a special formula, right? 2 times 2 is 4. 2 plus 2 is 4. 4 over 4 is 1. So if it's just these guys working together, it would take them 1 hour. And that makes sense also, right? Because if it takes him 2 hours and him 2 hours, well, they would cut their work in half. And then, right here, we then take Bob Joe or Joe Bob as like one person. That's Joe Bob, 1 hour. Fred, 3 hours. So Joe Bob times Fred over Joe Bob plus Fred is 3 over 4, 3/4 of an hour. And then finally, we put this in minutes. So 3/4 of an hour is 3/4 of, or times, an hour. An hour is 60 minutes. You guys probably know in your head, it's 45 minutes. So that's just a couple ways. There is a third way. It's very, very algebraic. And so maybe you can apply this to the problem that I gave you with different numbers. Number 2 is one of my favorite kind of problems. It's about averages. Hopefully you know that an average is like all the scores added up and then divided by how many scores there are. So let's say I gave a problem about math tests or whatever. Let's say there's a different problem, like 3 basketball players, right? And they average 10 points together, so they average 10 points each. Well, it turns out that Bob averages 9 points per game and Joe averages 13. So what's Fred's average per game? A couple ways to do this. Right? One way is to say, what's the easiest way to have everybody average 10 points is just to have all of them score 10 points. That would be the easiest way, right? Well, Bob came up short, but Joe did a little extra work. Okay, so Fred could come up a little short, and then that would all balance out, and they would have a total of 10 plus 10 plus 10 is 30. It's another way to do it is to say the total amount of points is 30. But I like this way because then you just say, all right, Fred, 2 less than that 10 average, Fred would be 8. Okay? The number 3 problem, I don't know if you've ever seen these. If you're new to this type of question, these are actually not very hard, but they're just weird. In like the math competition world, like math counts and the contests we hold here and stuff like that, they use these fake symbol problems where they'll say like A triangle B is an operation that means 3AB. Well, first of all, what does 3AB mean? If the numbers and the letters are all together, they're just multiplying, right? AB means A times B. So 4 triangle 2 literally means 3, that's part of the problem, times A, which is 4, times B, which is 2. So 3 times 4 is 12, times 2 is 24. Okay? That's the number 3 problem. That one's, now again, the one I gave you is a little bit harder than this one, but now you kind of know what these fake symbol problems are. You get those a lot in math contests. Now again, there's a very algebraic way to do this problem with Juan and Pedro and Sally. So I'm actually going to use the actual problem, but I'm not going to do it for you. I'm just going to give you a start. Okay, again, you could use letters, X's, and things like that, make it a lot faster, but you could make a chart, right? You could say the problem is Juan has 5 times as many dollars as Pedro. Sally has $2 less than Pedro. So you could literally guess. Since Pedro seems to be the guy we're comparing everybody to, let's put him in the middle. And we'll say, let's just make up a number, random number. Pedro has $5. If Juan has 5 times as many as him, then Juan would have $25. If Sally has $3 less than Pedro, Sally would have $2. And then you'd add them all up, and that does not come out to 88. So you're like, oh, okay, all I gotta do is pick another number. We'll start with Pedro again. Let's go high this time. All right, let's say, I don't know, let's make up a number. Pedro has $20. All right, well, if Juan has 5 times as many as him, Juan has 100. Well, now we know we're already over 88, right? But let's go ahead and finish the problem. 120, and Sally would have 3 less, 17, and you add them up and get 137. So all you got to do is find some number in between here and pick the right number. It's not a whole lot of numbers to try, and you get good at these patterns and finding, like, you know, you're not going to try crazy numbers. You're going to try good numbers that are going to get you closer and closer to the answer. All right, those are some tips on the first 4. I'll send out some tips on the others. Eventually, after the weekend, I'll give you the actual problem solving, and I'll teach you the algebraic way to do it and stuff like that, if you don't already know. And look for your special tasks.